Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Angela Butts-Chester, and you know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And that's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. I'll be spending time today with Michael S. Gloukhov, and we'll be talking about his book, Sofia Brussels Washington, Escape to the West. I know, intriguing title. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Daily Spark TV.
Hello, Dr. Chester. I'm honored to be on your show today.
Oh, I am honored to have you on as well. Now, before we get started talking about your book, I realize that there may be some people that are unfamiliar with you or with your book. So if you'll just pause for a moment for me, I am going to read your bio. Please excuse my looking down. It says that you were born and raised at the end of World War II and the arrival of Soviet communism. You were not authorized to access superior education. You escaped to the West and stayed in Belgium. Driving a taxi cab for 12 years while attending university. You moved to the US and got a job with the VOA. You served for 20 years in the US Naval Reserve as a military daughter, former military wife, and a military mom. I thank you for your service. Thank you so much for that sacrifice. And welcome to the show. Your book, I cannot wait to talk to you about it. Now, would you say that you have always been an author in the making, or did you find that this was one of the best ways to share your stories and knowledge?
That was probably the best way. I didn't write other books. I'm not going to write another one after this one. But in my time in Belgium, I published press articles like political analysis, and that was taken by first couple of newspapers related to articles about human rights. I was president of the Bulgarian League of Human Rights in Exile. And of course, the human rights was a very important subject in the communist world because you don't have human rights there. And thanks to the pressure from the West, a little window started opening in a certain moment. But that's how I started writing in a newspaper. And then I started
Oh, thank
writing
you.
on a couple of magazines related to NATO. The first article was 30 years since the creation of Radio Free Europe, and that was translated in Dutch. I wrote the article in French, and soon after that, an organization proposed to me to write for the commercial press. I suppose they liked my style and content. So I wrote several articles and analysis on the infiltration of the churches by the communist security systems, security services, the world international terrorism with the participation with the Soviet bloc. That was a taboo subject at that time, but I did write 4-part articles, enough to bring the attention of the KGB, which I took as a badge of honor. And that was the beginning. When I moved to the United States, and I did move in the United States because this is the country, the first country that proposed to me a decent job, which was corresponding to what I wanted to do. And that was the Voice of America radio, a Bulgarian service. And that's how I started a career, which is going to finish this year, 42 years. But in the meantime, yes, I served in the US Navy Reserve for 20 years. Now, I'm going to open a parenthesis. When you work for an organization like the Voice of America, this is called
That is amazing. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love the behind the scenes, if you will, portions of people's lives. You never know what has led to the awesome decisions that they make later on. Now, let me ask you about the readers of the book, and I try to ask this of all of my guests. Would you say that your book is appropriate for someone as young as high school, like 14, 15, 16 years old? Or do you think that they need to be perhaps college age or older to be able to follow along and really understand the nuance that you have in the book?
that's a very good question. And to all the age categories, I say yes, it's appropriate for all ages, including people my age, for probably different reasons. But why do I say all ages? Because my challenges started very early, and I've been through in not a very easy way, but I overcame the difficulties. And if somebody is reading the book, this person can see what I went through my eyes. That's the style of the book, and have their own conclusion, which is probably the useful part. Overcome difficulties. It's part of life, and more often than not, you're going to overcome if you have the will and put your efforts to do it. And I believe ultimately I'm the living example of that. Uh, of course, you need a very strong determination, and that goes all aspects of life, including education, especially higher education in a foreign language is not an easy thing. But if you put the necessary effort, if you get organized, and if you decide to do it and put the necessary sacrifices, because it's not going by itself, just like that, reading a little book under the tree and then go to the test and everything is fine. No, I've been studying 15, 16 hours a day. I almost cried sometimes by not understanding something and using studying whole nights until I understand. And also it took me about 3 years when I write a paper in French, although my French was pretty good, uh, in order uh, to to be so good in writing that I don't need a second pair of eyes to revise it. But I put all the efforts in that. My motivation was extremely strong, and ultimately I got even a PhD. That was not in my plans, but I've been invited to do it by the professor, and I could not say no, which was extremely difficult experience, and it took me 4 years. But I did have this PhD in French in a French university, and my dissertation was 2,000 pages.
Wow. Oh, I love that story. Just so inspirational. And yes, sir, you are absolutely right. When we are able to read about others who have persevered, others who were determined that they were going to be okay, and they walked that path no matter how bumpy, no matter the obstacle, and that they are living proof that you can do it. Thank you so much for those words of encouragement and to really inspire the next generation to be the best that they can be. Thank you so much for that. Well, everyone, it is time for us to take a very short break, but don't worry, we are definitely going to continue this conversation. You know, the book is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
There's something I need to tell you. This relationship isn't working. It isn't good for me. I'm breaking up with you.
It's not me, it's you. I became dependent on you. And you were always there for me, even when I was at my worst.
But I didn't realize the damage you were doing.
You created a toxic environment. Not just for me, but others too. You were suffocating me.
We're just no longer compatible. Also, there's one more thing. I met someone else.
I'm respected in public. I'm making friends. I feel like I can breathe again.
That's how I deserve to be treated.
我们之间结束了。
तुम फिर से कभी नहीं मुझे दुख दोगे।
Ni siquiera te necesito.
Parce que j'ai une autre option.
And it's a healthy relationship.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Now, I love that you have just inspired our next generation and encouraged them to don't allow obstacles to disappoint them or allow them to become derailed. And you have such a powerful story, and I would like to talk a little bit more about that if you don't mind. So, one of the places where you were was Bulgaria. Can you tell us about that experience?
That experience lasted for me 24 years. I escaped at the age of 24. And my memory begins probably at the age of 3 or 4 years, when I still remembered my father as an Royal Army officer before the arrival of communism. He stayed for 2 or 3 years after that, before being fired for insulting a Soviet officer. By the way, the so-called insult was that the Soviet officer was trying to rape my mother, and my father stopped him, and he was in uniform. Of course, for the communists, he is the guilty one, because you need to accommodate the guests, I mean the Soviet occupying army. That gives you an idea what the system was, especially in the beginning when the country was occupied by 1 million Soviet soldiers. And then it was the period of terror. Practically the whole civil society was executed, like 130,000 people in a very fast way through so-called people's trials. And just all those intellectuals, professionals, they've been depossessed, some of them summarily executed and or put in labor camps to die. This kind of treatment lasts for generations. And you still today, 30 years after the fall of communism, you can feel the sequels of that. But at that time, it was the period of terror, the period of lack of electricity, lack of water, people disappearing, massive propaganda on the radios, and there were loudspeakers on the streets. You could hear only folkloric music or the speeches of Stalin and glorification of communism. Visiting a church was heavily discouraged. Only old people could have access to a church. The young generation was immediately under the control of the communist authorities. They created youth organizations, communist youth organizations. They were all mandatory. And of course, the so-called collective, you're included, is spying on each other, spying on your parents, because they wanted to know what people are talking at home. It was a very dangerous thing. And when I was coming from school and my parents and other relatives at home were having a conversation, somebody was saying, the journalist arrived, and everybody changes the subject because I could hear something and report them to the school with an immediate impact on their lives, daily lives. I was not aware of those consequences at that time. And I, for a moment, maybe for a few years, I've been brainwashed, loved Stalin. Actually, I remember I cried when Stalin died, which sounds ridiculous now, but it is a fact. And this system was created in such a way that it self-perpetuates. There is no way that there will be free elections. Once they grab the power, they keep the power, and they destroy anything and anybody which is on their way. Actually, to put it nowadays, it's not typical for communism only. This is the fundamental threat of the totalitarian system. So like Russia today is not guided by Communist Party, it's a type of fascist state, but it has exactly the same principles. Keeping the power and killing your opponents.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think that so many times there is a disconnect between reading the stories in a history book or just hearing about it, so to speak, on the news, that we still have our grandparents, for me, my grandparents or our great grandparents for our younger generation that are still here with us, that can tell us of the atrocities during that time. And bravo to your father for standing up for his wife. He did what he was supposed to do, and I don't think that you would find anyone in my audience who would disagree that that is a husband protects his wife. So bravo for that action. Thank you so much for bringing that to life for us and giving us a better idea of what it was truly like. That it wasn't a Hollywood version of it, but there were truly horrific things going on during that time, and that you are here to tell us those stories. Now, we don't have much time left, but I do want to ask you about your time in the Army. Many people now, we are living in different times, so their understanding of what it's like to be a military person is a little bit different. So tell us, what was your life like as an Army soldier?
Are you talking about the Bulgarian army or the US Navy? I
In
served
the U.S.
2 years,
Navy, yes, sir.
two
Thank you
years
for
as
that.
a
In the U.S. Navy.
conscript in the Communist Army, which was the pinnacle of personal terror and deprivation. But I managed to survive that too. Now, the US Navy was a kind of, to me, it was like a hobby. I loved it. First, what a difference with the military service I had in Bulgaria. This terror trying to break your character, to wipe out any kind of thought, real productive thoughts, uh, putting propaganda day after day in your head, and physical abuse, physical and mental abuse non-stop. The US Navy was the other way around. Uh, it was first volunteer service. Second, you're taking great care by this government. The commanding officer, for example, I had a conversation with my commanding officer, and he said, my duty is not only to be your commanding officer and make sure that your service proceeds the way it should be, but also the I'm interested in your family, the success of your family, of your children, and this is unheard of in the Bulgarian army. It was just the other way around. They even don't let you go to see your parents, or they call your parents only if to come to see you after punishment and to blame you. So this was great. With proper training, you're well fed, motivated, and you serve your country with pride. And when I say that, I would add that the United States was and still is the only country in the world that can go and help with when the time comes with armed force other countries to be free or help them to keep their freedom. And issuing my thought from that principle, for such a country, it would be honored to wear their uniform and be part of it. So that was part of my gratitude. I did my best. I agreed there were difficulties like security clearances. This is not a privilege. And I fought very hard to have a top secret clearance. It's very difficult for somebody like me. And I had 3 citizenships. I still have 3 citizenship, which kind of precludes any even thought to have this kind of clearance. But I did. After 12 years, I had a fully adjudicated top secret clearance, and my contribution to the intelligence community was, I believe, considerable with my experience. And then after the fall of communism in Europe, my origin from those countries help those countries to become more democratic, to acquire American defense training, weapons, and I participated directly in that effort. That was such an honor.
Oh my goodness. I am so glad that I had this conversation with you. We so many times we take for granted the opportunities, the day-to-day lives that we are allowed to live here in the United States, and to be reminded that freedom isn't free, that there are things that we must do to make sure that we maintain it, that we protect it, and that we are presenting our best selves at all times to make sure that we are able to sustain it. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you so much for your determination during your life. And thank you for writing such a book to inspire us to, one, never forget what has happened, but more importantly, to move forward from a positive place, and one that honors those who have come before us. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with me today. Now, before you leave, I do want to remind everyone, of course, the book is available on Amazon or wherever books are sold, and the website is down below if you want to visit that. And remember, it is Sofia Brussels Washington.com. And if someone wants to reach out to you, of course, they can visit your website and be able to do that. Are there any, if there was one word that you could leave us with that will inspire us, what would that one word be?
Appreciate the freedom you have and defend this freedom, because as President Reagan once said, we may be one generation away from losing our freedoms, and never forget that.
Amen to that. It was true then, and it is true today. Thank you again for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Angela.
Yes,
What a
sir.
pleasure to be with your public.
And viewers, thank you for spending time with us here today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with us today, and I thank you for doing so. I hope that we have once again enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.